Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Lister, and I'm the Vice President of Risk Management for MPIS, the Florida Insurance Trust. I have with me today Officer Richard Patterson and Officer Ed Rosado with the Orlando Police Department, who will be presenting today on situational awareness and what to do in an active shooter situation. We also have with us today Travis Childers, who is the Director of Business Development, who is going to go over the coverages that the Florida Insurance Trust provides for our active shooter. If anyone has questions during the webinar, please click on the question box and you can enter your question in, and at the end of the webinar, we'll be happy to answer any and all questions. We will also be sending a survey at the end of the webinar, and we do ask that you please complete same and maybe give some ideas on future presentations and your thoughts on what would assist. I thank everyone for your participation, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it to you, Officer Patterson.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is kind of weird for me. It's my first webinar, so it's going to be a little awkward for me kind of speaking to an empty room, but we'll work through it. Anyway, I'm Officer Patterson with the Orlando Police Department. I'm with the Crime Prevention Unit. I've been with the department for 16 years, and basically what we do is we try to help the community and businesses to make it a more safe environment. So today's training is going to be basically a mixture of situational awareness with a little bit of active shooter and some other things placed in there. So we'll begin. Yeah. All right. So what is situational awareness? Situational awareness is basically paying attention to what's going on around you. It's a person's ability to scan the environment, looking for challenges and opportunities while maintaining the ability to conduct normal activities. So what does that mean? In basic English, that means just paying attention to what's going on around you while you're just doing whatever it is that you're doing, whether it be grocery shopping or going to work or walking with your kids, whatever the case may be. We want you to be able to do that function at the same time being aware of what's going on around you. A lot of times when we find ourselves in dangerous situations is because we were paying attention too much to what our task was and not to what was going on around us. So situational awareness will help you in those times. So being aware of one's surroundings, again, and identifying potential threats and dangerous situations, it's more of a mindset than a hard skill, meaning there's nothing that you can really do to train for this. It's not a hard skill. It's basically just you're taking the time to start paying attention to where you are and what's going on around you, paying attention to the exits, where are the exits when you go into a building, paying attention to who's sitting around you, whether it be at a restaurant or a movie theater or what have you. It's paying attention to the behavior of the people around you. So that is a conscious choice. It's not really, with time, the more you do it, the more it becomes like a skill, but really it's just your mindset. I like to say it's people who come from up north, they have that mindset built in from an early age. People in the South tend to be a little bit more friendly, a little bit more open, and but definitely up north you have that mindset of I got to pay attention to what's going on around me. I got to always be on guard. And we don't want you to be walking around totally 100%, scanning everything and everyone, but we want you to just be mindful of what's happening around you. So some ways that you can increase your situational awareness is to trust your instincts. If you suspect something is wrong, pay attention to that. Don't dismiss suspicious people, cars, or situations. Report them, leave the area immediately. Try to avoid dangerous situations. Don't invite trouble. Use your best judgment. So basically, trust your instincts. We're humans, but we're animals, right? Everyone has instincts, and those instincts will help you through a lot of situations. If you find that you're going If someone gives you a bad vibe or you feel like a situation isn't right, try to pay attention to that. You don't have to be paranoid, but we survive because of our instincts. And if you feel like that situation is dangerous, you should just avoid it. Don't dismiss it and walk into a situation where you think, oh, it's just my mind playing tricks on me. Because the worst case scenario, you just take time and then you avoid a bad situation, but you don't want to be in a situation that you could have avoided. And if you do find yourself in a situation, then what you want to do is report that immediately and know your limitations. Don't look for trouble, but be confident. Ways to increase your situational awareness. Stay alert. Remember the time, remember the person's appearance, age, height, weight, clothing, scars, etc. Remember a car's make, color, and anything distinguishable. So what we try to teach is try to start, if you're looking at a person, try to start from the top and work your way down. So you're going to look at their hair, you're going to look at their skin color, whether they have scars, tattoos, beard, weight, and then clothing. Clothing can be easily discarded, so don't get caught up on what color shirt or jacket a person's wearing, but instead maybe the pants and then definitely the shoes, if there's anything that stand out about their shoes, because that's something that they can't easily change. When it comes to vehicles at night, a dark blue car may seem black or brown or green, depending on the lighting. So what you want to do with that is try to focus on whether it's a two-door, four-door, if there's rims, if there was tint, or if there are any bumper stickers or anything distinguishable on that vehicle. And those are the kind of things that will help law enforcement. Some other safety tips to consider. Women, keep your purse, men, wallets, keys, other valuables secured at all times. Keeping a watchful eye on strangers who enter the office. Avoid staying late at the office. And report any broken or flickering lights, dimly lit corridors, or any other safety concerns to management. So a lot of times you may be in the grocery store and you see women with their purses open, and they're turned around and they're looking for whatever they're looking for in the freezer or on the aisles. And that's inviting trouble, because if someone walks by and takes your phone or your keys, you may not even notice for quite some time. I had an incident where one of the companies I went to, a person came in and took the receptionist's keys off the desk, and she didn't realize that, and the person left and went outside and kept clicking the remote until they found the car, and they stole the lady's vehicle. Luckily, we were able to capture it on video and able to apprehend the person at a later time. But you never know who's going to be around you, so you want to make sure that your items are always secure. And again, strangers, whether they're there for whatever reason, you always want to be mindful. If you find a person that's like looking around or just doing things that are strange, or if a person is not supposed to be there, you want to talk to management and let them know. You may not necessarily confront them yourself, but you want to make sure that they're there. Don't just assume that they have a right to be there. You want to make sure. If you're going to be staying late at night, try to leave with another person or have security walk you to your car. Or if you find yourself in a situation that you feel is unsafe, you can always call law enforcement and just let them know, that you're alone and that you feel unsafe and that you just want somebody to walk you to your car. That's not a problem at all. They'll send someone based on manning. Unsafe work conditions, you don't want to add to the possibility of being in a bad situation. So what you want to do is, if you see any lights that are broken, you want to address that. If you see any locks that are not working correctly, any doors that are supposed to be locked and it's not locking, you want to make sure that management knows about that. Safety tips continue. Signs of potential violence in fellow employees. Report this to an appropriate person immediately. It's also important to report any incidents of sexual harassment. Know your company's emergency operations plan, and if the company does not supply an emergency kit, keep your own emergency supplies. Avoid being a victim of a vehicle burglary by not leaving valuables and electronics in plain sight in your vehicle. And when working overnight, park your vehicle close as you can to the building, and always report suspicious people or incidents to the security or the police department. So let's talk about the first one, violence in fellow employees. A lot of the situations that we find with these active shooter situations are either fellow employees who, for some reason, over time have had, a change in their behavior and their personality. And these are the kind of things that, when we look back, it was a gradual change that should have been observed, whether it be change in hygiene, a change in religious or political views, or a newfound interest in weapons or any of those things, taking it as a total, not just one or two, but if you see this, it's something that you should pay attention to. Another thing is domestic violence, because domestic violence sometimes finds its way to the workplace. If a person is in an abusive relationship and somehow finds their way away from that person, it's usually that person, it's difficult for that person to find the victim. But one place that they know that they can always find them is at work. So that's why a lot of times these domestic violence situations come to work. And sometimes we know that our fellow employees are going through things, and we kind of think that it's not really our business, so we try to stay out of it, or we may talk about that person behind their back or whatever. But in this day and age, you need to be able to, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to that person, then at least letting management know or someone know so that they can address that situation, because you don't know when their personal situation is going to come to work and involve you. So always be aware of that. Keep that in the back of your mind. Feel free to jump in at any time.
No problem. How you doing? Name's also Officer Eddie Rosado, also with the Orlando Police Department, also liaison to one of our city commissioners, and also being part of the crime prevention unit at the Orlando Police Department. One thing that Officer Patterson is basically reaching out at is exactly that. You have to be aware. I like to look at some people sometimes as well. To be involved and seeing somebody, do you fear somebody when they're kind of always in front of you, or when they go into the dark, you don't know where they're at? The old expression, what do they always say, keep your enemies close to you. In this case, take the enemy portion out of it and just watch everybody's mannerisms. The same thing we teach with residential, at home for crime watch, and also neighborhood watch in your houses. Always you see something, say something. Watch everybody's mannerisms. That's something that we need to start doing in this time and age, because it's all about that. And if we ever get to the point where we are in a situation of an active shooter, which Officer Patterson will go deeper into it, is all about aptitude and fortitude. For me, aptitude is, what is aptitude? The natural ability to do something. Fortitude is the ability to carry it out. So that's where everybody's got to get that mind all the time. So you always, no matter when you're walking out of work, when you're walking out of home, when you park in a parking spot, what's the first thing you should always do? Scan and then walk out. I leave a building all the time. I'll leave this building after here. First thing I do is I stop, I take a look and see what's my threat or what's out there for me to go to. When you go to 7-Eleven or the Wawa, do you take the first parking spot, or do you take the last one when you scan your Wawa? You scan your 7-Eleven. How many of us usually go to there? Do you go to a standard store? You know it very well. You know who belongs at that time. You know the mannerisms at the store, the routines that they go through. So if you drive across and you don't see Joe at the counter, or everything's kind of, it's supposed to be busy at the time and it seems empty, what's going to go through your mind? Are you going to call 911? Maybe, maybe not. For me, I would. If it's nothing, that's okay. We still checked it out. But you know the mannerisms of that store. Again, aptitude. Your ability to do something, your natural ability, and then you did it because you saw it. Right? Everybody works in different ways. Again, we're going to probably, I'm not too sure if we're going to show that video. If we do have the run, hide, fight, you're going to see an ability in there of a woman that starts screaming, and she goes into the corner, she goes. That's most of us. Again, you just got to work with that person and let them know what's it. Her aptitude might be different than yours, but you have to get mindset. And I always believe, and I tell this to a lot of people when we do women's self-defense or anything that you do in life, you know, the body can never go where the mind has never traveled. You have to get your mind ready for that. So when you get your mind and you know you practice it, what is it? Practicing getting your mind there so when it does happen, your body, you know, your body can react to it. So why not know your coworkers? When one of your coworkers goes dark, or they go quiet, or something's wrong, or you see them not eating, okay, first thing I'm going to ask you, then what's that workout plan you got? Because I kind of need it. I want to drop 20 pounds. They're like, oh, I'm not working out. You know, there's a lot of things that could be going through at home. Let somebody know, and then they have to, you know, have a sit down. It is all our responsibility. Same thing when we live at home. A lot of people put the own on the police department to watch their neighborhood. But again, big part of it is over 50% is going to be you know your neighborhood better than anybody else. You know your workplace better than anybody else. Watch it. Let us know. Help us help you. So those are one of the things that I always like to get involved. We have to change our way of thinking. You know, that I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm just going to cross the street. We got to say something. We have to. And it just doesn't pertain to an active shooter. It could pertain to domestic violence. It could pertain to a lot of different things. Active assailants. An active shooter always have to be with a gun. Can it be an active assailant? Can I come in here with a golf club, a 7-iron, and start taking some heads off? It's the same effect. Yes. Whoever plays golf here knows that's a weapon in itself. It could be a knife. It could be anything. They just start, and we'll go over certain things of a mass shooting or, you know, an active shooter, and we'll go into different details about that. But we need to prepare ourselves before that even happens. Always have your guard up and your front line ready. And if it does happen, we have a plan in place. This is what we're doing. So.
Very good.
So we worked out a visual interpretation of what we're trying to explain to you, and it's through Jeff Cooper's color code. The color code is basically a progression from white to yellow to orange to red, and basically everything that Officer Rosado just said is encompassed in this. So if you start at white and pick, when you're in condition white is like usually small children, young children, even young adults these days, when they're paying attention to their phones, when they're paying attention to, you know, their apps and their radio, whatever the case may be, everything but what's going on around them. Their attention is all focused on one thing. My son constantly does this. He's got his phone in his app. He's playing his video games. He sees nothing that's going on around him. And I'm trying to break him of that, but he's not the only one. I see it all the time.
Remember Pokemon Go? When that came out?
A good example.
Lake Hill Heights is my commissioner's district. We had all of a sudden people calling me, Eddie, we had 80-person robberies. What's happening in downtown? What's in Lake Eola? And it's not that, because kids were all picking Pokemon Go, and people would just snatch it as I'm walking. Go ahead, just snatch it. Is that a robbery? It's a person robbery. So they just did it, and they don't know, who took your phone? I don't know. I just saw his back, because they were like that. So again, is it person robbery? Yes, because people were in the white.
So we don't want you to be in white at all. We want you to the yellow. Yellow is the state where most people should be. In the condition yellow, you're relaxed, but you're aware of who and what's going on around you. It merely means that you're paying attention to the sights and sounds that surround you, whether you're at home or moving around in society. You know, if you're attacked in condition yellow, it should not be a total surprise, because you've scanned, as Officer Rosado said, you've scanned the area. You're able to see any potential threats, and you need to start formulating a plan so that if it does turn into something, it's not a total surprise. You've already seen it. You've already started to.
Is it better to be surprised, or is it better to say to yourself, this is what's going to happen when I walk up that door, and your body and your mind is already getting ready for it? If it doesn't happen, you could de-escalate. If not, but you're expecting it already, and you can go out. But that builds mind, and that builds your body ready for something like that.
Exactly. So a step up from that would be orange. So if you are scanning and you find a threat in your immediate area, you should start formulating that plan. So for example, if you're walking through the parking lot and you see a person there that's doing something that's out of the ordinary, they're not going to their vehicle, they don't seem to be doing something that a normal person would be doing at that place and time, and they're for some reason get your attention or on your radar, you need to start formulating a plan. What am I going to do? If that person comes towards me, what am I going to do?
What is that? Aptitude. Go ahead.
Right? So you have options. What are your options? You can retreat back to where you came from. You can just push forward past this person. And again, it all depends on you and what your abilities are.
Fortitude. That's what you desire and what you're going to do about it. So those two concepts.
Right? So let's say you've seen that person is walking towards you, you get a strange feeling, and you think to yourself, okay, if this person comes my way, I'm going to run back into the store to get security. If you have that plan in place, and you find yourself in red, and now the focus of your attention or condition from orange does something that you find threatening, you shift into condition red. And now as your fortitude comes into play, you have to put forth that plan and make it a reality. If possible, in both conditions, orange or red, move to a position that gives you a tactical advantage. Again, you don't want to place yourself to where you can't get away. You don't want to be cornered. You don't want to place yourself in a dark area where there's no one that can assist you if you need assistance. So orange and yellow, you should be observing. Orange, you see something, you should be already formulating your plan. And then red is when it's time to actually put that play and put into action. So that's the color code. Responding now, once you're in red and you're responding to an attack, you have to evaluate the situation. Some things that might help you, is help available? What is that? What do you think the intent of that person is? Is it just to rob you? Is it just to harass you for money? Is it to injure you personally? All that is going to make a big difference in what your plan is and what you need to do to avoid that situation or get yourself out of that situation. So if you need to listen, observe carefully so that you can make the best decision. And remember, your goal is to escape and to survive. So a lot of people ask, what should I do if I'm in this situation, what should I do? If I'm in that situation, what should I do? I can't tell you because only you can decide the best response in an emergency. And you have to be realistic about your ability to protect yourself. What one person is able to do, another person may not. If you think, okay, if this happens, I'm just going to run. Realistically, how many of us run? Are you able to run for a distance? And if you do run and that person catches you, will you then have the physical ability to fight that person after just running? Are you able to run in the clothes that you're wearing? If you're in high heels, ladies, are you able to run? Are you prepared to kick off those shoes and get out of there?
I know women that can run in shoes very good.
Some of them can, some of them can't.
So you got to know your ability. So have you practiced it? I know my wife could run and she's good at it. Because we put it into play for almost half a block, and she did it.
Yeah, it's impressive. I've seen it myself.
She did it.
I've worked downtown for many years. I've seen it. I've seen some who can run. I've seen others who can't walk. So I just know your ability.
Right?
Just
know your ability.
Know your ability. Some options are screaming, hitting, biting. These may help you to escape, but it could also expose you to greater harm, depending on the mindset of your attacker. Just do what comes naturally to you and do it immediately. Remember, each emergency is different, and only you can decide what's best. If you're going to use pepper spray or you're going to use keys as a weapon, be prepared to do that. Practice with it. Have that whatever your plan is, it should be ready. If your plan in your mind is that if someone bothers you, you're going to pull out pepper spray, then make sure that pepper spray is accessible. Don't have it at the bottom of your purse or somewhere in your pocket that you can't get to it. And have you felt the effects of it? Have you sprayed that pepper spray to see how it's going to affect you? Because in a confrontation, that spray may get in your face as well. Are you going to then take yourself out of the fight and expose yourself to greater harm? If you have, a lot of people say, I carry a gun. If you carry a gun, are you prepared to use that gun? Is the potential there for that gun to be taken from you? Do you have the mindset and the aptitude and the fortitude to shoot someone? It's easy to say, but have you gone to the gun range? Are you familiar with it? What happens if that weapon jams? There are a lot of what ifs that we, as police officers, we're constantly training for that kind of thing. So, and even with all the training that we do, sometimes in the heat of the moment, we find ourselves in difficulty. So if a person does not train and mentally prepare themselves for that, when the emergency happens, you're not going to perform to the best that you can. So keep that in mind. You want to do that?
Yeah. I'm going to go back and forth with it.
All right. So active shooter stuff. Evacuate. Have an escape plan. Leave your belongings behind. Keep your hands visible. Hiding out. If you're not able to escape, then you need to hide out in an area out of the shooter's view. You want to be able to block entry to that room, whatever is available, whether it be a desk, furniture, whether it be locking the door with if you need to tie a belt to the door handle. Start paying attention to the rooms that you find yourselves in, and start thinking ahead of time the best way to barricade that room if necessary. And if you can't barricade that room, or you don't have the option to hide, then as a last resort, you're gonna have to fight. You're gonna have to see what's available to you. If a person if you find yourself grouped in an area and there's no place to hide, there's no place to retreat, and again, depending on the mindset of the person who's attacking you, if they haven't shown signs of true and uncaring violence, then you have a different set of options than if they're just indiscriminately shooting people. If they've expressed to you and through their actions that they just don't care about life and they don't care about you, then at that point you need to take whatever it means that you can take to survive is what you need to do, whether that be throwing your cell phone at them, throwing a water bottle, computer, furniture, whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself out of that situation is what you need to do.
My partner did an actual training, and they did like a class on that, and they had a bad guy come in with like airsofts. He came into the room with 20 people, and they were just in a corner not doing anything. He came in, he took a shot, he took off. I think he got like 20 people. Now the same thing, everybody got foam balls, and he didn't know what to expect, and everybody had it in their hands. And as soon as that door opened, everything came at him, and he only got one shot that hit. Everything else, cause we just threw a lot of things at him. So that's just throwing foam balls. Imagine if in this room, if that was a clear wall, we're going to win the fight in this room, because what do we have? You know what I mean? I'll grab one of those. You're grabbing that one. We're throwing everything and hitting them. And like I always said, and I know a lot of people can't see me, when you finish the fight or you're going through the fight, the punch doesn't end here. The punch ends here. Like a golfer's in the room. When you hit the ball just gets in the way. You don't stop at the ball. We go completely through and the ball just gets in the way. Same thing. So you got to put your mind ready to fight, whatever it takes. If they're there taking out people, we're going to take them out on whatever we have to. I'll take that painting and we'll usually grab one side and it's on him, whatever we need to do. So you got to have that mindset on there.
Escape out of that and play that video.
Yeah, just... And then wherever you have the...
We're going to pull up a video now, I believe, that'll go through that situation.
Mm-hmm. What you need to do, the run, hide, fight?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we get the video to come up, it's just a run, hide, fight that the federal government basically uses, and it's basically contained in an area. When people leave the building, you see them going out maybe right to the backyard, and that's it. But in a real scenario, we will take that all the way out. We'll just run across the street, 3 blocks if you have to. Here it is.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary. but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
On that. Could that easily happen here?
Yes.
Yeah, actually can happen here. But again, some people everybody laughs at the girl. I understand that, but again, she just reached that color that she was not prepared, formulating a plan or anything in her head, and that's okay, because that's going to be most of us sometimes, because we just don't know. That's why we do choose a lot of this training, so people do know and always think, yes, it can happen. Is it a possibility? I like to go with the mentality, not if it's going to happen, is when it's going to happen. So do you know your building? For me, who knows this office better than you? You guys should know your exits. You guys should know a lot of people's doors. When you go to the movies now, you look at everything a little bit different. Do I sit now closest to the exit on the corners? Yes. Do you know what your escape plan is? Absolutely. So a lot of people, a lot of places you're going to sit at, you're going to start looking at that. People go in and we start observing what's exits and everything. Something can happen. But when we're ready, you have to, and we might think a little different, but people should not think different than cops. You should start always formulating a plan. All those little things, those little, keys, nuances will let you know when you're driving, like I said, to the store. Always scan. You'll find yourself doing it a lot more out there. How many times we see road rage? The road rage, a lot of people just get away from it, kind of, but you're still observing. There's a couple of people that call it in. We call it in as a road rage incident. This is a tag. They're heading south on Mills Avenue, and they're approaching Colonial. This is the color. This is the make of the car. Just to let us know and to give us a tag. We might stop it. He might continue the trek all the way, probably working at RMC. The reason I say that, because I have stopped somebody like that because he came over the radio. I was by Delaney Park, and I got him. And he was still moving, and I'm late for work. But again, he's getting, with the horn, talking to people, yelling at them, all because he was late for work. And then, I didn't give him a ticket, but it's just a point of, don't sweat the small stuff. If you're late, you're late. You might meet a guy, say a road rage incident comes, and you read somebody just lost their job, having a problem with their wife, had to move out and everything. Suicide. Can suicidal be homicidal? If I, pull up next to you and doing the finger thing, the high forefinger and everything, he gets out the car. If he's about ready to kill himself, does he care? Is he going to take you out too? Absolutely not. When you explain to them that way, and they think I'm going to get a ticket, and I put it in that scenario, they turn around and says, I never looked at it that way. So look at it that way. Somebody cut you off. Okay, it happens. This guy, I talked to him. We went back to the hospital, and I dealt with him a couple other times. But he turned out and he kind of slowed down because he understood things a little bit, especially him knowing that he was almost supposed to be like a doctor or something. But again, stressful job. I didn't know this till I spoke to him, that the highest suicide rate is, one of the highest suicide rates by the profession is doctors. I didn't know that. So I actually spoke to him and other people, and I did my research, and it's true. So maybe he was going through it. But I kind of became his friend. We started talking. We went had lunch a few times. So again, we're liaisons for the police department. Our job is basically that, all community affairs, getting involved with them. And if I can, change his life in that way, I did, but I also helped him out there. Is he one that eventually could have cracked and became what we're talking about? I think so. It could have easily been. Oh, he could have went on top of the building and jumped. I don't know. But again, it was just needed to talk about it and just don't sweat the small stuff. So it's just, those are the things that I picked up, and it all came out with something. They called it in, and then I encountered him. So it kind of worked. The system kind of worked in that way. So on something like this, I always tell everybody, know your parameters, know your building, know your office, know your closets, what doors closes, what doors doesn't. We know a lot of people can't see this, but on the doors, sometimes some doors come with the pressure things on top that won't let the door slam, and they got the handle that comes out like a triangle. When Officer Patterson said about a belt, if you can't close it, somebody take a belt off, tie that up very hard, then the door won't open. You just secure your door. But you might install them, and there might be in other doors. They're not here. What are we going to do here? This table is going to block that. Just pretend like this window wasn't here. We're all pushing this table, and trust me, we're going to get a lot of strength, and we're going to stop that. We're all going to arm ourselves, get in the corner, and get ready. If that door, he tries to come through it, we're on him. So we put our plan into place, and we know how we're going to do aptitude and fortitude. And again, that'll always get you through a lot of different scenarios. And I coach Little League. Same thing, my Little Leaguers, the same thing. Always strive to be, not great, but always strive to be good. Be consistently good, not occasionally great. Consistently good, not occasionally great. Aptitude and fortitude. And know the plan goes into place and you work as a team, you're going to get a lot more accomplished than that great guy that occasionally comes through with the home run. So they understand all that. So again, I always take that in life. And I have my eight-year-old, and we teach him that it's the same thing. And at work, we practice it at the police department. We'll go into City Hall. They just redid City Hall now. They redid every floor. And we'll go through the tight corners and we'll practice what happens if somebody's here. Always practice that, even with your kids. If we go to us cops, when we go to a restaurant with our families, my wife already knows my child. If I encounter somebody arrested, I give her the certain look or a cue that we talked about, could be a color, and they know she gets up, she's off to the car because I've just encountered that person. You know, I've had somebody come up to me in a restaurant, and underneath the tablecloth, I had my gun out and everything. I didn't know somebody I arrested, and he just wanted to tell me after the fact that he respected the respect that I gave him when I arrested him. I treated him like a man. I'm there. I said, absolutely good. This ain't the time and place, but I'm glad that it all worked out and, you know, everything's doing well in your life. Again, I didn't know what he was up to. Again, but my family knew. But did we have a plan in place? Absolutely, we did.
And you don't have to be a police officer for that. You can, anyone can do that. You can have a plan in place when you're with your family. You can have a plan in place, you know, whether it be a restaurant, like I said. My kids, I've gotten into the habit of, when we're in the movie theaters, to have them scan the movie theater, see where the closest exits are. And, you know, I run scenario. For kids, I make it into a game, you know. Hey, if this happened, what would you do? And then they give me an answer, and then we kind of go over it. Like, okay, do you think that's the best idea? What if that happened? You know, because every time you have a plan, you should always have a plan B and a plan C, because most times things don't go according to plan. And again, like I said, when that emergency situation happens, that's not the time to try and formulate a plan, because there's too much happening and you're going to be overwhelmed. And then a high probability is that you're going to end up like the lady in the video in you know, Color Code Black, which we didn't go over, but that's just a complete shutdown. A lot of times when you're overwhelmed, you may just find yourself shutting down. So
yeah,
always have that plan and always play that what if game. What if this happens? What would I do? And the more times you do that, the more you'll find yourself ready for most situations that you're going to encounter.
Practice your homework that you'll get from all this is practice always giving good descriptions out. I practice this with my little boy. He's gotten so good at it with the digital recorder. He'll see a commercial with a family sitting on the sofa, or he'll stop and we'll go back, and he'll just give me descriptions of what people have on. Everybody sizes everybody up. Okay, nobody says from head to toe. The minute somebody walks in the room, everybody sizes. It's just an automatic thing that we do as people. So why not use that as you're scanning already down, see what they have, and go back up. So my little guy's gotten so good at it, he'll stop his dad. What was dad wearing on the last sofa? I'm like, he had hair. And he's like, no. But he'll break it down to the point where he's seeing it. He didn't shave. He had a blue shirt with a Mets logo on the side, and he had shorts, and he had flip-flops. And we'll go back, and he got it right. And he keeps throwing that when we're in the car. But in case in the situation ever comes, and we need a description, yes, I saw him go into the building. He was wearing this, this, this. And I saw him doing this, this, this. And what's the biggest thing that's always very important on people that they can't change very quickly is your what? Your shoes. You could take off this real quick, have a white t-shirt, you could take this and have shorts, but your shoes, you can't change so good. So always get, there might be a Syracuse Orangeman that might have the orange sneakers on that day. So it might be very important. Same thing with a vehicle. Find out what kind of dents, what kind of stickers. It's the main thing that stands out. We already know what a Camry looks like. What's the things that the Camry shouldn't have that you noticed? So pick up those things, they flip it around. You know, it's like the word game, like the word FedEx, right? How many people know there's an arrow in the middle? Nobody knows it. But then when you change the color scheme, you can see the arrow day is light. Big as life. You're like, damn, how can I never see the arrow? Because you look at what shouldn't be there. So do that. And watch it. If you ever put FedEx up, look at it. And between the Fed and then the X, right there, is a big arrow. And when you change the color scheme, you look at it completely different. What shouldn't be there, you're like, how can people not see the arrow? You know, and it's an illusion that the same thing happens. So that's how we give good descriptions on vehicles, because cops usually do that first. He had a dent on the backside. He had a white sticker on the left corner, and one of the lights were out. So what are we looking for? We know what a camera looks like. Now we're looking out for those things that stood out, or the rims, or he's missing one hubcap. That's how we make our stops, and that's how we get to it immediately.
All right. So to conclude with the active shooter situations, if you find yourself in that situation and law enforcement comes, just remember to remain calm, follow the officer's instructions, fight the urge to run out towards police, because they're not going to know who's friend and who's foe at that time, and it's just going to make the situation more confusing for everyone.
In Stoneman Douglas, how did the kids come out? Remember that? All the kids came out like this, remember? And that's just what we just wanted to be sure it wasn't the shooter. We didn't know.
So keep hands visible, avoid quick movements, and avoid pointing, screaming, and yelling. And again, the information that the law enforcement is going to need is if you have the last location of the shooter, number of shooters they've seen, description of shooter, number or type of weapons, and then the number of potential victims and where they are. So those are just some things. And again, as mentioned in the video, if you're injured at the time the law enforcement is coming in, we're coming in to end the confrontation first and then provide physical medical treatment afterwards. So don't try to stop them at that point. Don't try to hold on to them. They're going to clear the scene, and then paramedics and stuff afterward will come in to help you. So bottom line for today's training, awareness is a choice. You have to choose to pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Have a plan. Have a backup plan. And
Okay, wonderful. And do we have any questions, Ryan?
Well then.
Nobody saw it.
I didn't see the video.
Could we play it again? I mean, it's a pretty quick video,
Yeah,
and I
play it
think
again. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's important.
Right,
We'll see if we can play that.
Right, you got some pressure on you now, brother.
Yeah. And if not, then we'll send a link to everyone so everyone can see.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all.
Just to know how many people are watching the word.
We have 62 or 63,
Okay.
and most of them consist of risk management. So I think the main focus of what you're saying as well is to make sure everybody does have a plan for their locations.
Absolutely, yes.
and make sure that everybody knows what that plan is, their employees, and, you know,
Where they at? Different places?
different locations all throughout Florida.
All throughout Florida? Because then they could always reach out to their police departments as well, and they could do anything at their satellite locations, and they can actually know, at least law enforcement will know the layout of this building. Does OPD, bike units, know the layout of this building? Absolutely, they do. He used to work downtown. Who doesn't know the corner building right here?
Mm-hmm.
The officers of that location know it. Your response time. You want to know how quick your response time? Your response time here will be, in a situation hung up, 30 seconds. Because, you know, we get here, you have units here in downtown, bike units get here immediately. Find out in these satellite locations how long. Get in touch with your sheriff's office or whatever it is. Find out how long response time might be. You know, get the liaison there, the officer that works that B, or somebody who works in crime prevention, say we did have it. If you do have a panic alarm in there, have you tested it out? Have you called them? Call the police department, say we're going to do a test and see it and see how fast the reaction time is. You know, make sure it's working. So there's all the things that the satellite locations can actually do with their local police departments or sheriff's office.
Okay,
Okay.
that's amazing. Is the video up now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and show the video.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay, great. Can you see if we have any other questions?
Why does it expand this at all?
Give us just 1 second. We want to make sure we answer everyone's questions, so.
Can you send a link to the video? We could use this in our safety training.
Yeah, we'll just save it.
Yes, we will send the link to everyone,
There we go.
most definitely.
No,
Okay.
no drag
Any
feature.
other questions?
Send it right to the video. Oh, yeah, nice. The presentation never actually got started. Which we could send the slides to everybody.
Yes, at the end of the presentation, we're going to have this video and the webinar up on our site, thefloridainsuranctrust.com, so it'll be available to everyone. But we'll also be sending a survey at the end wherein we will provide the slides of the show and a survey on what we can do different in the future, and also discuss any maybe future topics. But you'll have all that information, and everyone always has my information, jennifer.lister@mpis.com. So if you have any questions, concerns, anything, feel free to reach out to me. Both officers, you did an exceptional job. Thank you so much for coming in and taking your time to speak with us. I think it was very, very helpful. Do we have any other questions before?
Yeah, there was this one by
Patrick has a question there.
It says, how should someone with a concealed carry go about not getting in the way of police officer when the threat is present?
Okay, so again, it's a vague question because it depends on what the situation is. The main thing that you want to do, you want to be able, the purpose of that concealed weapons permit is that you can carry a weapon to protect yourself. Now, if you're using that weapon to protect yourself and law enforcement is coming, you have to be able to identify yourself and make sure that you're not seen as a threat as well. So you need to follow any instructions, orders that the law enforcement is giving you. And if law enforcement is on the scene, then there's really no reason for you to be standing with your weapon out, because, again, that's only going to add to confusion. So my suggestion would be, if it's safe and possible for you to put that weapon away, you know, and explain to the officer whatever the situation is that's going on, and then let them know that you're armed, and they'll give you instructions from there. Can you think of anything else?
No, that basically, I think you hit it right on. Just always, a lot of people say with the concealed weapons, you got to see what's the policy and procedures that follow your company and the building that you're in. What are they put in place for you to carry that? And if it's a situation where it's a run, hide, fight, like you just said in the video, and law enforcement is not there, there's been scenarios where there's a video out there in YouTube about a military man that was at a Family Dollar, and he witnessed something, and he wasn't in fear of somebody else, and he took action. So again, those all of the ramifications. You are the only one that can tell what you can and cannot do on that point.
Okay. Any others?
Yeah,
That was it.
The only kind of real question, other than
All right, wonderful. Thank you both.
You're very
I really
welcome.
appreciate it. And now we're going to follow up with Travis, who is the director of business development. Sorry about that. And Hasiba and Gloria as well, to talk about the coverages that FIT does provide for our members for active shooter.
Yeah, definitely. From a marketing aspect, Florida Insurance Trust, historically we've been a true membership-driven program, meaning that, if you dream up coverages, we do have an educational conference every October to where we have instances for occurrences like things like active shooter or maybe a massacre, throughout the United States. You guys, you hear that, you see that, you ask us, hey, what can I do about coverage? How can I protect my entity? How can I protect my employees? How can I protect myself? And, under the Florida Insurance Trust, because we are membership driven, you often make requests at our educational conference to add things like this. We've had 2 layers of coverage that will cover, active shooter, and those are the terrorism and sabotage, which is primarily on the property, and the liability as well. So, and also we have the active shooter, the parlay with that, with a lot of sublimits. If you have additional security measures that are needed there, maybe it's counseling, maybe a public relations cost up to $250,000 that's included under the active shooter. But these are things that we do to protect you folks. So in other words, a good example would be maybe somebody comes in and shoots up the place. So we're going to cover that real property for it to be fixed. And then, it doesn't have to be a gun. Sometimes maybe it's an auto, and an individual just goes rogue and drives through your front door. We have the coverages in place to cover your entities and protect you guys, not only on the property but on the liability as well. So, for example, if I'm at one of your locations and one of these events occur, and a lawsuit is filed by, some of the folks that are in attendance or on premise there, they're not really employees, we have the liability coverages that sit over the terrorism and also the active shooter up to $5 million in the event that there are liability or lawsuits that are listed there to protect you guys. So these are things that we do on the Florida Insurance Trust, which is a lot different than many of the other programs or standard carriers out there in the market. And a lot of it is your true membership-driven program, and we do all and everything that we can do to protect you and your entity and your employees on that side. Steve, is there anything else you would like to add to that?
Not so much. I think you hit on all the highlights. The major deal there is, the general liability policy, professional liability policy, by and large provides the crux of the coverage in terms of an active shooter event. So these active shooter coverages and terrorism coverages or gap coverages basically filling out most of the voids, right? There are still exclusions that apply to policies. However, by having those two coverages, we feel it kind of gives us the best package available right there. Now, an active shooter coverage is fairly recent, so it's kind of young and in a mature infancy stage, if you will. Very much like cyber coverage was about 10 years ago, where now it's much more established. So we'll keep track on it, make sure we try to get the broadest coverages, but as this coverage matures, there's likely to be changes, and we'll just keep on top of it to the best of our abilities and try to bring forth the best coverage in this respect that we can. And we feel right now what we have is a good starting place, and we'll commit to continuing to build on it.
Yeah, and again, on the historic-wise, as Stephen mentioned, the active shooter, it is new. We had the terrorism in place before. And that's something that came from our membership, the South Florida area, post the Parkland event, down in some of our South Florida entities, that's part of the Florida Insurance Trust. And again, this is us, protecting y'all, in the long run in your entities and your employees. In closing, I just want to, thank y'all for attending this seminar. We look forward to a good renewal with many of y'all in the summer. And don't forget, I've already mentioned the educational event that we have in October every year. So kind of mark your calendars. I'm not sure if we have the date figured out quite yet,
yes,
Jennifer.
It's the second week in October. I believe it's the 15th through the 17th. I'm not sure.
Well,
I don't have it in
we'll
front of me,
get that
but we
out
will
there.
be sending many member alerts advising everybody of the date and time, and we're super excited. It's going to be another great conference with great speakers, and I think it'll be good for everyone. It'll go through a lot of topics.
Yeah, and if we can assist in scheduling training or pointing you to the right direction on this active shooter, or if you need further information on the coverages, obviously, please reach out to your agent partners, and we'll be happy to address those. If you have any suggestions on what new coverages we should consider including in the package, we're always all ears, and we'd love to get your feedback.
Yes, wonderful. All right, well, thank you both. Is there any questions in regards to the active shooter coverage? Doesn't appear so. All right, well, wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, we will be sending the presentation, the slides. You can find it on the FloridaInsuranceTrust.com website. That should be up probably in the next few days. And again, we're always open to topics that you think would be a great webinar, would assist you. Please reach out, and thank you. Bye-bye.